Oh, we don't need no fancy words. I mean, we need to practice. We need to rehearse.
I'll tell you what we need. We need some paying gigs. We don't need this messing around, first one patio and then another, and that's ridiculous. We don't got no goddamn band. We don't need to fucking practice with it.
Marc's already out of whiskey, so we're ready to roll.
He's downed it already. Welcome to the No GD Band podcast. I'm Henry.
And I'm Chris.
And we are here with a friend of ours, Dr. Marc. Say hi, Marc.
Hi, Marc.
All right.
And Dr. Marc, where are you a doctor?
I'm a doctor here in South Charlotte.
What kind of doctor?
Family practice.
Not brain surgery?
On the side.
On the side,
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you choose family practice?
When I was in residency and internship, you get exposed to a little bit of ophthalmology, a little bit of psychiatry, a little bit of surgery, and I loved it all. ER and OBGYN, delivering babies, exciting. And I couldn't decide, and I pictured myself in each of these specialties and realized I'd probably get bored if I did just one. If I focused, if I was an ophthalmologist and I looked at eyes all day long, I started actually in ER and did that for several years, and that was great. And you got to see everything, and it's very exciting. It's also never happy. It's anger, and it's blood, and it's screaming, and it's often death.
Yeah.
And there's family members you have to console. And actually now what I do is much more emotional because I've been in the same practice in Pineville for 20 years. And so I know these people really well, and when things happen to them, I feel it. But if someone comes into the ER, they're just a person with a chart, and this horrible thing just happened to them. They've been shot, or they have been stabbed, or they just had a heart attack, or there's a nail in their eye or something. And I don't know them. I'm just kind of dealing with the task at hand. Right, I'm problem solving, basically.
Henry, I don't want you to... That was a great question right off the bat. Let's save that for the main segment. No, it's not your fault at all. Because I want to find out all about Dr. Marc being a doctor, but I also... That's not really why I invited him here. I invited him here for a different reason. We'll get to all that in a minute, but let's go ahead and do the regular intro stuff, because I know we all three have opinions on what's going on in the world today.
Yeah, okay. I mean, issue number one.
I'm going to let you start it, because really I only have one opinion on this.
Well, I was hoping to bounce off of you.
Okay, great. Well, it's the school shooting. We have another one.
Right.
My opinion is, until I see something change with Congress, nothing's going to change, so why do we even talk about it? And I don't mean that in a flip way. I mean that in...
Yeah, that's the part I was going to give you shit about.
No, it's not flip. What I mean by that is, I believe this is the new acceptable norm. Apparently, third graders to first graders dying at Newtown was acceptable.
Right.
That was just...
It's hard.
It's fine. So if that's acceptable, how is this going to... Nothing's going to change.
It's hard to see that if stacks of dead 5-year-olds couldn't do it, right? If that could not...
No, I mean, not even not do it. Didn't even budge the meter.
Didn't budge it. What would?
Right.
Is it possible that in the intervening years that we've got a group, and I'm just throwing it out there, that we've got a group of engaged older kids from a rather affluent area, let's be honest, whose educational system was probably pretty good, that may be able to articulate this in a more broadly emotional way than others might have been able to? Is that possible?
Does it last more than 5 more days on the news cycle?
Well, that's the big question.
And now our hopes are with 16 and 17-year-old kids,
right,
staying firm for months with some sort of position.
What do you think, Marc?
So can I pipe in? Yeah. So on Saturday night, we were out for my wife's birthday, and one of the friends that was with us is a lawyer for ATF. And he says, this is interesting. You all want to talk about gun control and quiz me about it because this mass killing just happened. You guys talk about it every once in a while, you guys being society, when things like this happen. But this is what I do every day, all day. This time it's different. He said, this is the first time we have the kids speaking out, and they're starting this movement, and things are changing. And he says, this feels like it's going to snowball. And now on Facebook, you have people that are starting, I don't look at Facebook much, but I'm hearing this, that people are starting to show themselves sawing up their their automatic rifles. This is
Really?
like a movement thing now.
Right.
Here's the other thing. I'm at work. At 4:30, Trump is having a group of survivors in front of me. We've got Newtown people. We've got some Columbine people. We have Florida, call it Parkland, I guess.
Yeah, call it Parkland.
At the Parkland school kids there. And he's there. Camera's right on him, and he's doing his thing, looking at the kids and all that stuff. And I got to thinking, is there a way that you could leverage this guy's ego enough? I'm hoping Donald Trump doesn't listen to my podcast, but
I hope he does.
if he does, I'm cluing him in.
I hope it's
if you could
tremendous.
leverage this guy's narcissism just enough to show him the benefit of screwing the Republican agenda. If you could do that, then you stand to actually accomplish something.
Yeah, I also
You
hope
make
that I
the
grow.
Republicans buy into this ridiculous thing that they didn't want to do before, just like they're doing with the deficit budget.
Beautiful pipe dream.
Yeah,
I hope I can grow wings and fly out of
here.
here tonight too, but it's not going to happen. So, and again, I'll discuss it all you want, but until I see one little movement, until I see them do one little thing, and here's the thing that I wish we would do, and this sounds terrible, but I think we need to see pictures of kids from Newtown. I think our media hides from us the carnage.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
And even with war, it is so different to see that than what we get in the news about war, that I think it would change a lot of what we think.
Like I don't know if it's the right word is surreal, but that sort of surreal brutality being shown.
I don't think people
to you.
really think about
Right.
first grade kids shot with an assault weapon. What that would look like.
It's been movie-fied in their mind. It's not a real thing that actually happened in somebody's house.
And Dr.
or
Marc,
somebody's
we're going to talk about
school.
this with him later, but he is a tri-citizen. He's also a citizen of Canada and France, which both have way more sensible gun laws.
I'm sure they do.
Or at least our liberal left
Everyone in the
side
world
tells
does.
us that they do. What's it like in those countries?
So I lived the first half of my life in Canada and never met a single person that owned a gun or didn't know about it. Anyway, I'd never heard of anybody owning a gun. So gun laws work. France, it's similar. It's a less violent society. We all know that Canadians are very chill, but that's a part of it. It's ingrained. So you know what happened in Australia, of course, in '96?
Right.
There was one mass shooting. And 12 days later, they put in the ban against military weapons and assault weapons, and it worked. And there hasn't been a mass shooting since.
And I don't know how many Australians you know, but to think that they are more rational than we are is terrifying, because most Australian people I know are fucking insane. In a good way. I love them,
Right.
but like to think that the land of Crocodile Dundee.
And they started as prisoners, right?
Right,
Right,
yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
the whole- yeah.
They were a penal colony, right? So, and that argument that it can't be done here when it's being done right across the border in Canada, which is basically
All right, so
not that different than
So
America.
sadly, the U.S. ambassador or the Australian ambassador to the U.S. was one of the guys in the Australian Parliament that was responsible for that change in '96. And he says, it's probably not going to happen here because it's so ingrained with that Second Amendment in the psyche of Americans.
It's actually codified here in the law. That's the problem.
But I think you nailed it, Chris. That has to change with the Republicans. And how do we get them to change that? By not supporting them if they're taking money from the NRA. So and that's what people are talking about doing now.
Demonize the people who are taking money from the NRA.
But what I'm afraid, and this is going to sound dark. What I'm afraid is actually going on here is that the NRA and corporations actually run our government, and we don't. And this talk of us voting these people out,
It's just another...
because you're just going to put another person in that the NRA is going to give $4 million. Like our two senators, I don't know if you guys have seen this on Facebook, they posted how much money they both have taken from the NRA.
Richard Burr
has taken $6.9 million, which he's third of all. And then, is it Tom Tillis, the other one?
Hang on, I tell you, because
He's taken $4 million. And think about North Carolina. Like, I don't know, Mark, if you heard this, but North Carolina's instant reaction the day after the school shooting was our state legislature held an emergency meetings to pass a resolution to allow teachers to carry guns in schools. That was the North Carolina response.
Make it worse. Put more guns out there.
Yeah, and I was watching that on the news with another friend of mine who is a teacher. And he said it would terrify him to have teachers with guns. First of all, most teachers don't know anything about guns or want to know anything about guns.
Right.
What would keep students from stealing your gun?
That's it.
And then the other thing he thought of that I never even thought of, he was like, "What does that make me now under an obligation to go jump in front of a guy with an AR-15 with a handgun when I'm getting paid $40,000 a year? Like, I'm not doing that."
There was a guy, I don't know his name, unfortunately. He was on Vice News like 2 days ago in Florida. What the reporter asked him about the standard discussion about why can't we outlaw assault rifles, blah, blah, blah. The guy says something like, well, would you outlaw a spoon? Because that gives people
I've heard this
obesity.
whole argument, yeah.
It's a tool that gives people obesity. Like,
would you outlaw
does
ladders?
not fucking get it. It's like a level of fucked upness that I don't even understand.
Well, let's revisit this if we see some sort of change.
5,000 people were in Tallahassee today.
Yeah.
They were streaming into the place.
Here's the only other thing I'll say about this. The first day that the kids went up to Washington to protest, which I think was President's Day, they didn't even know that fucker was at Mar-a-Lago. He was not even in D.C. They were all laying pretending to be dead on the lawn, and he's playing golf.
They came up from Florida, and there he is.
And he went down to Florida. Yeah. So anyway, let's get to the whiskey segment because I think, and we don't normally do this. This is not a standard. We don't make the guest bring the whiskey with him, but
the guest offered.
The guest offered, and we're so thrilled that and that is not why he's on. That's not the only reason he's on. But
he only offered after he got invited.
Right. Okay, all right. Thank you. So let's get to the whiskey segment.
All right, good.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. No, don't ask why. For we must find the next whiskey bar. Or if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must find.
Mark has like a bag in front of me at Brown that's like a magic reach in.
It's hiding.
Looks like a Jack and the
beverage.
Beanstalk's bag.
So Mark, tell us about what we're doing here, how we're going to do this, and
Well, I want to see if you guys know your stuff about whiskey. So this is the likely one. I mean, you sure talk about it a lot, but you seem to have, you're doing your standard Jim Beam, and you're doing, what's that Penis River one? Knob Creek, sorry. And Penis River.
I think what you find is we just used whiskey as an excuse to. You're kind of pulling back the veil here, which I don't like at all.
He's trying to call us out on
Right.
Yeah, so the next...
I have to start Googling all the little criteria for
what you're going to hear
shit.
after the whiskey music, actually, in this episode, you're just going to hear, like, under construction music, like on one of those channels where it's just going...
Oh, speaking of which, I love that Alabama song. So your first whiskey intro music in the first couple episodes did not like so much.
Right.
But this one's great.
Thank you.
And I know the song well, the Kurt Weill song.
Yes.
I know it from The Doors.
Yes.
And this version, I had to look up to see it was David Bowie.
So
I heard that.
I've been reading recently a David Bowie biography that my brother bought for me because I'm a big David Bowie fan. I never knew he did that version.
Right.
So I went instantly while I was reading it and pulled it up because I was like, that was The Doors kind of made that their own.
Right.
And I always kind of hated it because I never liked that German kind of, to me it's like vaudevilling kind of thing. And then I heard Bowie's version and I was like, not only do I like that, but that is perfect for the podcast. And I know Henry's hated all the...
No, I hated the middle one. The first one I liked.
I was never so...
And Mark didn't like it.
But I'm glad you backed me up. I'm gonna stick with the David Bowie.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
I did like the David.
But it's interesting. But I like the Doors one better. And you're liking... I think you like it better because it's David Bowie.
Oh, I totally think that is. I think David Bowie could probably, take a dump.
Because it's a lot weirder.
I like
David
that.
Bowie,
I like that. I think it takes out a little bit of the sing-songiness
Right.
that I associate with that whole German,
Agreed,
the 1920s Germany
Yes.
before the. Like I probably would have loved to have been
All
there.
right, Bowie nerds,
But-
are we going to drink this whiskey?
Okay,
or
but
what?
wait, let's
Jesus.
set down the ground rules. So he's going to make us show how bad we are.
No, I want you to taste it and just talk about the bouquet and the cherry flavor and whatever you like,
bouquet.
whatever you get out of it.
Smells like whiskey.
Well, it's better than any other whiskey I've had. That tastes pretty good,
Oh
man.
wow!
That actually tastes like something.
And this is not a Scotch. This is a.
This is a whiskey.
It's a whiskey. Okay, so is it? Should we guess first where it's from?
Yes,
what-
but you're not going to guess because of the taste. You're going to guess because it's me.
Right. So it's Canadian.
Yes.
Which I have to say, with
Yeah.
my limited knowledge,
Yeah.
I always assume Canadians make the worst whiskey.
They made a lot of cheap whiskey starting during Prohibition, of course.
But it's kind of smooth.
This one is smooth, so that tells you that it's a higher end of a common whiskey. So the big reveal is that it is. Do you recognize if this bag was purple?
Yes.
No,
yeah.
Crown Royal. So
Crown
this
Royal.
is Crown Reserve.
Nice.
Very nice.
So I don't know if you've noticed over the course of the podcast, Henry and I think both are partial to smooth.
Yes, I've noticed that, and me too.
Yes.
And that's with beer. That's with wine.
And I'll tell you the only thing, and all kidding aside, the only thing that I've learned from the podcast, because honestly, we were not whiskey aficionados prior to. The only thing I learned as we've done this is I grew up being from East Tennessee, always drinking Tennessee whiskeys, which I now know I hate because they burn on the back end.
They
Like
do.
they're much more of a.
This
and-
is like a good wine. It goes away
Yes.
once you swallow.
And I think that's why I kind of gravitated towards Bushmills. I don't know if because it's kind of a
It
smooth
is.
ride through. This is sacrilege in my hometown, which I'm hoping nobody's listening, but I also prefer the Kentucky bourbons to Tennessee whiskeys, which it doesn't sound like a big deal, but down there it is.
Of course.
Because I am literally from right in the heart of Jack Daniels territory. But this is great. Thank you so much, Mark.
That's like a Canadian saying he likes American beer better.
Yeah, I know. Like, yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get to the main section because I got lots of stuff. Dr. Mark is super interesting, and we're glad he's here.
thank you.
Let's get to the main
It's
section.
delicious.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. No, don't ask why. For we must find the next whiskey bar. Or if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die.
All right, so we're back, and our main segment is our guest, Dr. Mark, who is so nice to be here. And first of all, I'm going to let him tell you guys how we met. It was not when he was giving me a physical. We were actually
But I'd
friends
very much
outside
like to.
of
Bend
right.
over, maybe cough.
We'll talk about him being my G.
We were at a place that we both work out at, and we're both there a fair bit. I'm there 4 times a week, sometimes 3, sometimes 5, and you're probably there 3 times a week when I'm there, so you must be going 4 or 5
I'm
times
trying to
a
go
week.
4. Trying to
Good
go
for you.
4.
That's awesome.
Gym
So
nerds.
it's called Orange Theory, and it's a 1-hour fantastic workout, and it's a lot of old guys like us, and fit-looking women, and beautiful-looking coaches, male and female.
We have not been compensated for this endorsement.
It was in the class. You're there usually 5-10 minutes beforehand, and everybody's waiting to get started for the class. And I see this guy. It's Chris, and he's got a T-shirt with a French flag. French was my mother tongue, and I have relatives still in France. My mother's from France. My dad's from Belgium. And so I walked over and I said, "Hello, tu parles français?" And he goes, "Huh?" And then the story was you were wearing it in support of. It was like a Hornets player or something like that.
Yes, there's a Hornets player who is French named Nicolas Batum. He's the only French national that we have on the team. And the team made T-shirts with the French flag, and they just say Batum underneath it. When he walked up to me and said all that, I didn't even know he was speaking French. I was just like... But I think there was also something else at work here because the place that we go, which is a lot of fun, and everything he said about it is true, but it's also... These workout places tend to be a richer type clientele tends to gravitate towards these, and in the South, that tends to be more conservative. Mm-hmm. And I felt like me and Mark were the only in a weird way, kind of like,
What gave it away?
yeah, I know, right? And the funniest part was he didn't know this.
It's his hair and your beard.
Well, and Dr. Mark didn't know this, I don't think, but
I usually have an earring in when I'm there.
Oh, yeah.
when we first started talking and we started talking politics, literally people started, like, we got more and more space around us, which was great. Like, all of a sudden the room starts getting like, so it's really great the way, it was like to find a port in the storm, you know, so.
And then soon after finding out your politics was my first visit to Mar-a-Lago. And so I had to tell you all the
so you went after you even met him.
So this is like a fresh.
I think it was soon after, and I had to show
And I want to let you know
pictures.
this also, Henry. I didn't know all the doctor stuff. He didn't introduce himself as a doctor. He introduced himself with the Mar-a-Lago story, pretty much, being French, or dual citizenship, and then the Mar-a-Lago story because he knew I was a anti-Trump guy.
Yeah.
So tell us the Mar-a-Lago story.
So I have a relative who belongs to Mar-a-Lago, lives in Florida nearby, and she has belonged since before Trump was in politics. And she's an incredible person who friends with Hillary. And so we've been to the White House. Hillary announced she was running for Senate from her house.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so she doesn't play sides or anything like that. So she's at Mar-a-Lago, and once he was in office, she started going more because it's become more interesting. There's more interesting people there, power players, of course, that she's attracted to that, and they're fascinating people. So we stayed over, even though she lives 15 minutes away. It's an incredible place to be when the president's in-house. This was off the cuff. You asked me what I thought about it. How could you possibly go there? And people ask me that all the time. And I'm like, because it's a circus and it's fun. But I think I said to you, fascinated disgust is how I feel. That's the emotion. But it's an incredible experience. As you drive there, you're a mile away and you're passing. Both sides of the street are lined with county police, and you get closer and it's City of Palm Beach police.
Right.
And then you get really close and it's all the black Escalades. And there's a ton of them, and you know this is costing us all a lot of money, and it's a lot of weekends. And then when you get towards the entrance, they stop you. They have the sniffer dogs come into your car. Everybody has to, including my kids, the IDs. They put mirrors under your car looking for bombs. It's quite an ordeal. And then when you're there, it's fascinating, and all the beautiful rich people there, and the place is stunning. We had a room which was the size of my house when we slept over there.
Right.
Gold-plated bidet in the bathroom.
So it is in the Trump style. Everything's gold plated.
So you walk in the front, it says the only 6-star resort in the United States of America.
So is it kind of ostentatious?
Oh, like to the max. Like it screams ostentatious.
And that's why you're saying it's
purpose.
entertainingly ostentatious.
Yes. Oh, I love camping. You know, my wife and I, we'll like stay at a Motel 6. We're fine with that.
Yeah.
We don't need
And
luxury.
I can't believe this.
Yeah, but it's fun to see.
Yeah.
And who doesn't like incredible food?
So I have a running argument with my sister that I'm hoping you can clear up. So my sister just bought a new house in Atlanta, and she's showing me the house, and she says, "You're never going to believe the bathroom. We're going to have to redo the bathroom. These crazy motherfuckers have a bidet." And I told her,
"Don't get rid of the bidet."
I've been on vacation. Bidets are the best part of a bathroom. I love bidets. You've got to keep the bidet.
Your sister has great BMs.
Right.
So she doesn't need one.
Right.
But listen, if
Lots
you have
of fiber in her diet.
That's right.
It's the best. And it's so much more civilized than just using dry paper on your rear end.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
I just don't see. I tried to use the analogy with her, like if a kid's threw mud, if my niece threw mud on the wall, don't you spray it with something before you wipe it down? You don't just take a paper towel.
That's a great point.
And then you just have a spot sitting there, right?
Why did Americans get rid of that? Why don't we do that?
I think it's more like we just don't know how to use them. Like she was literally like, so how do you, like, I don't, like, so you get up and you
hit the button, right?
Well,
You sit.
well,
right.
it's like a separate. It's a separate bidet. It's like
Right.
it's not part. It's not like a built-in bidet.
I'm sure there's a YouTube how to use it.
Yeah,
They
I know.
never
I was
used
like,
one.
you can do this. You can do.
Do you
this.
have to? I've seen. All right, I've seen. Like,
Well, this was
footage.
her first question. She's like, "Well, how do you flush it down?" I'm like, "You don't take a dump in the bidet."
Yeah.
I've seen people hit the button when they're not on it, and I've seen the thing shoot up. So is
No.
the idea that you readjust like to the stream while
for
you're
sure.
on it? Is that what the way it goes?
Well, sure, but you want to get all around, right?
Yeah, so you're gonna move around.
You wiggle around
to get
anyway.
the whole
yeah.
area,
Yeah.
not
Absolutely.
just.
You want to get
Up
the you want to
there.
get the taint. You want to get the whole bit. You want to
Yeah.
get everything.
But
going
how do
on.
you? So then you have to dry yourself with toilet paper, I guess.
Well, you
which
gotta
is
go
all
back.
over and all around.
Yeah, or a towel. You're clean.
Or you can drip.
Like after a shower.
Yeah. But tell me, I want to hear about somebody that I like much better than Trump that you, I guess you told me you might have even worked with. I saw a picture of you with Mother Teresa. What a juxtaposition on this end of the scale you've met Mother Teresa, and on
Yeah.
this end of the scale
What an
you
interesting-
might have met the worst human being
He's
on Earth.
like the most interesting man in the world.
I know, right? I had a home run on this, didn't I?
I've got notes where this is going. I'm like, geez, dude,
I had a home run on
you've
this
lived
guest,
a
right?
life.
I've traveled a lot. I've been, as of this summer, 54 countries.
Golly.
And worked a lot of places and had a lot of experiences, yeah.
Did Mother Teresa eat in a gold-plated dining room?
I think it was like platinum.
Platinum,
I think she,
huh?
she didn't go all the way. No. No. Okay, so that story is, so what I used to do when I was an ER doc is I worked for like a placement agency, would do something called locum. So they would put me in small towns. I was in Canada at the time. So in Ontario, I would be placed for, let's say, a month in an ER in some small town, and I would work these insane 48-hour shifts.
Right. Oh, wow.
So I would work 48 hours straight, go sleep 12 hours, come back, do 48 hours.
That can't be
come
legal.
back. I hope it's not anymore.
Yeah.
I hope it's not anymore.
'Cause
But
What kind of
48
uppers were you
hours.
taking to do
You
that?
had to be doing speed
lots
or
of
something.
caffeine.
Lots of
yeah,
caffeine.
lots of caffeine. So at hour
Losing your mind.
48, I am absolutely not going to be pleasant.
Yeah.
If you're like chit-chatting with me, I'm like, why are you here? What's wrong? Let's get to it. I've got patients waiting.
Right.
And I need to. So I would do this, and I would make tons of money because I was working crazy hours, and making a lot of money as an ER doctor. And in like 6 months, I made enough to go to Asia for a year, and then I did that, and then I came back and worked another few months, and then I went to South America for 6 months, and then I went to Australia and New Zealand, and then I went through Africa for a year. And like I told you, I don't need nice accommodation. So I was in hostels and backpacker places, and sometimes I would bring a tent and hitchhike a lot.
Yeah.
And so I could make it last. And so this is how I got to see the world. But I always brought a stethoscope. And so I volunteered all over the world because for me it's about living the culture, like experiencing the food and the people and the language. And so in Calcutta, now called Kolkata, but at the time it was Calcutta, there's this place called the Sisters of Mercy Mission, and this is where Mother Teresa was, so I knocked on the gates, and I said, hi, I'm a doctor, and they said, we need you, come in. I said, can I help? And so they said, you must meet Mother, and so I was brought to this waiting room, and I sat, and she sees me, and she comes up to me, and she grabs my hand. She doesn't know why I'm there at this point, and she looks at me in the eye, and she says, are you okay? And I go, yeah. And I'm like, ooh, like, I'm not a religious guy, but like there was something going on here. Like there was like this feeling of greatness and empathy. And she says, how's your stomach? Because I'm obviously a foreigner and I'm in India and a lot of people get this.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. And she says, do you have a place to stay? And I said, yeah, I found a hostel. And she says, okay, good. If we can help, let us know. And then she moves off. She was gone. And so maybe half an hour later, someone brings her back. This lady was like 4 foot nothing. I mean,
She's tiny. Right.
But she had so much energy. And she was in her 70s probably at this point. This was 89. She died, I think, in 92.
Right.
She was involved in so many different projects. And she was just running around, so energetic. But finally, I met with her, and she understood that I was a doctor, and I'd come to volunteer and help for as long as she needed me. And she said, all right, And she looked at me again in the eye. She said, I think we need you in the home for dying and destitute. And so she sent me to this place where she would bring in people off the street who were dying of whatever reason, or had no place to go and were very sick and near death and just needed someone to hold their hand. There was nothing to do for them medically. And she did this for me because she thought I needed that, or she sensed that. Right. It was only like a week later where I said, can I do something else? I think I got this, that she met with me again and she put me in a leper colony. That was incredible. I actually came back months later and got tested, and I had TB. Really? Wow. So I was treated for TB, and I'm like, fine now.
Right. Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah.
And Henry, we're going to throw that mic away.
What the hell, dude?
Yeah.
She was every bit.
The epitome of altruism.
She was every bit as inspirational as the legend.
But yet, absolutely. She's what we all ought to aspire to be.
Does being in a place like that and seeing that give you an opinion one way or the other about our medical system? When you were talking about that, the thing that I thought of was my parents volunteered in their parking lot of their church. One of these traveling dentists.
Nice.
With the trailer comes.
Yeah.
And people came from as far away, my dad said, as West Virginia to get dental care in the United States of America. And I wondered, having seen that in a place like India, where the poverty is the issue, and then to be here where I don't think poverty is our issue for why people don't have dental and medical care.
Right.
As a doctor, do you have...
I think there are poor, unfortunate people everywhere who fall through the cracks either from no fault of their own or sometimes through their own bad decisions or bad luck genetically or what have you. And there's just a disproportionate number of these people in other countries. I worked in Haiti. I went with a group of doctors a week after the earthquake in 2010. It was like devastation everywhere. Yeah. These people had nothing. I've seen people here with tragedy, but you want to see a lot of them and you want to do a lot in one day. Then you go to the third world. You go to Haiti. I've done it in Malaysia. I've done it in Tanzania. So I've traveled a lot and done it in a lot of these places.
Hearing you explain this kind of makes me understand what your reaction to being in Mar-a-Lago might have been. Do you know what I mean? But because you can look on it, Chris and I would go to a place like that and just be outraged.
Yeah.
And probably be, fuming. But you've had such a broad experience overseas and have seen sort of how horrid things can get, that to watch this just seems like this bizarre sideshow, in terms of just the breadth of human experience, right?
It's surreal in a way, but so is abject poverty.
Really?
It is surreal. It's if you go to a place where there's utter devastation, you're going to be sad, you're going to hurt, but you have to distance yourself a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to be an emotional wreck.
Right.
And I tell this often to people that are really in a bad way in their lives here, my patients. Go and volunteer and help people that are less fortunate than you, because I will tell you, I need to do it time to time, because you go to Calcutta and you go to Haiti and you go to Tanzania and you go where people have nothing. Like, as an example, in Haiti, we got there and these people had nothing to begin with. And now their family's gone, their home is gone. There's no structures that they know that are standing. They've lost... I was working in an area where they shipped all the people that had orthopedic injuries, people that lost at least one limb, so they'd lost an arm or a leg, or they had crush injuries to their hip, and we're doing surgery on them. Now, all these people, to start with, had malaria, and a lot of them had diabetes, and yet they're singing, they're joyful, they're thankful, we're there. That's the weird thing about Haiti. Right. That I can't understand. I don't know if it's their religion, voodoo, or what, but... You come back from that, and how do you complain? You feel so better about yourself, and is that's like the opposite to me of Mother Teresa, who was truly altruistic. To me, that's selfish. But hey, like in a great way, go and help other people for yourself.
Right.
and I really want my kids to do this. So I've got them doing some volunteer stuff, but I want to take them third world. So actually, this summer, I got a kid going to volunteer in Ecuador, in like near the Amazon, where like in a very poor village.
Oh, that's amazing.
Great, and I know he's going to come back changed.
Well, so, aside from being a humanitarian,
Yes. He's
Dr.
also a
Marc.
thespian.
he's a fucking actor.
No,
Right.
I like girls. What are you talking about?
I didn't know there was this wealth of other
Well,
stuff
when we
going
were
on.
texting that day, did you find out about Meatballs the same day that I did?
I found out from the same text you did.
the,
So
the group text. we
let's
were on
not
that
spoil
day?
this. Dr. Mark, you
All right,
have been
spoil
in
it.
a couple of movies.
Two movies.
Two movies. Tell us about the first one.
So one made it big, and that was Meatballs. When I was 13, I went to a summer camp in Northern Ontario.
Hold on, people.
Yeah.
He just went really fast by that. He did say fucking meatballs, which is like a cultural touchstone for American
Yeah.
kids of our
That's
age.
right.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know how big it played in Canada, but down here.
Huge.
Okay, great. All right, go ahead. So you were in fucking
So,
Meatballs.
so I went to this camp. I was 13 years old, and I was in the camp play. It was Bye Bye Birdie, a musical. Chris loves musicals, and that's
Love 'em.
another thing.
yeah.
If
We're
we
gonna
have
get to
time,
that.
I want to get to you on that.
Oh, yeah,
Of
we'll
course.
get into that.
Yeah. That's my one bone of contention with you. I think is musicals. But so they asked the kids around my age, the boys, to stay after camp for 2 weeks to be in a movie, and my parents agreed, and I would be paid $200 Canadian, which was to me like $1 billion because
Right.
I was like 13 and had $0.
And where was
He just
this?
said dollars.
Dollars,
like a
yeah.
Canadian.
He did. He
But you don't.
I
I feel like
did not.
I feel like I'm in
I
that
did
show.
not.
Like you can't. I did not.
Now where? Tell us the name of the camp.
You
and
can't
where
do
we
that
were.
on television, and I'm gonna like rain the goop down on him and shit.
This was Camp White Pine in Halliburton, Ontario.
Halliburton, Ontario.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
where Meatballs was
That's
filmed.
where Meatballs was
An
filmed.
American classic was filmed in fucking Canada.
Yeah, 1978.
Great.
So I'm thinking, and the other kids are thinking, yeah, there's going to be this like, the Canadian Film Board is going to come up like this documentary is going to be. We had no idea what it was, and all of a sudden there's like Bill Murray and Ivan Reitman, the director, and I know him from like National Lampoon and stuff like this, and like. What is this? And
okay.
it was the real deal. And it was like a huge movie crew with like trucks and food. And I knew about Saturday Night Live. So these are the days of like Bill Murray was like doing all the awesome skits.
Right.
Like Gilda Radner and Jane Curtin and Steve Martin and so on. Okay, so if you remember the movie, and it sounds like you guys do, Chris Makepeace is this kid, Rudy.
Lovable. I love that
who's-
kid. How was he? What kind of kid was Chris Makepeace? He seemed lovable.
Oh, you're goading me here. He was a jerk to us.
Really?
Look, I can only say that he wasn't nice to us other kids. So the story is really, there's a few subplots, but I think the main thing is the relationship between Tripper, that's Bill Murray, who's like kind of like one of the head counselors, and this kind of loser kid who can't make friends, Rudy, played by Chris Makepeace. And so they needed kids my age, same age as Chris Makepeace, to be in his cabin, because in camps you're. So I was one of the kids in his cabin. So if you're going to watch the movie,
You were actually you were one of the kids in the cabin.
right. So there's I could
No fucking way. I thought those were all like, and I don't mean this to
Yeah.
be an insult. I thought those were all like brought from Hollywood actors.
no, they were kids from camp who happened to be in a camp play. at the
That's
time.
fucking amazing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought when you told me about this, or when we heard about this,
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say like the scene where he's running, where he's doing the like.
Right in the Olympics.
I thought
and
you were
camp.
going to tell me
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
look, when he hits the third turn, he goes right by me.
Yeah, so-
but you were actually in his fucking cabin.
Yeah. So all those kids wearing Camp North Star shirts.
I have a
versus
hard on
Camp
right now, by the way.
Before it says versus Camp Tomahawk.
Tomahawk.
They were all Camp White Pine kids wearing different shirts, right? Like the orange versus the white shirt. I
Yeah.
still have one of each of those shirts somewhere in my
That's
closet.
crazy. I didn't know that was all really extras.
Yeah.
But you get some screen time.
You see me. There's a close up of me, like in one scene where it's right before the big soccer game, and the counselor says, "We're gonna kill him. We're gonna kill him," and I'm saying, "We're gonna kill him," and then cut to the soccer game. I'm the first one with the ball.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I'm in a bunch of scenes.
Well, let me ask you this, because my memories of being that age,
Yeah.
if they were actually immortalized in like, if I could go back and watch them now,
Yeah.
what does that do to your like perception of your of that
Well,
whole,
he's saying that do you look at the movie and does it ruin the sort of more romantic
or does
ideas
it,
of what
or
it
when
was?
you look back at it and actually watch it, does that not look like what you remember it being in your head?
It was also artificial. It was a movie. I mean, when I look back, I think of the whole big picture of being there, and there's lights, and there's the gaffer, and then there's this guy, and there's that guy, and there's the cameraman, and the other cameraman from the other
So
angle.
the story of
and
the
there's
movie-
Ivan Reitman yelling at people, and we're doing that whole scene like a million times, and I'm just a 13-year-old kid who's fucking hungry, and I want to like go to the cafeteria, get a burger, and yet we have to do the scene like 8 more times. Like, oh. So the best of all of it, well, the $200. That was the second best part. The best part was one day I was cutting through the
Was
forest.
that like $1.25 US at the time?
There was a time, and it might have been around then, when the Canadian dollar was worth more than the American.
A little bit.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. We always have the best
Look
currency.
back.
Always.
So it's like $1.50 to $2.
So I'm cutting through the woods to get to, I don't know where I was going, maybe to like swim or something like that. And there's like Bill Murray sitting on a log practicing lines. And I'm like, I quiet down and I like try and sneak past him. He says, "Hey, kid, come here." And I sat down on a log and had a chat with him.
Wow.
And he like signed a little something for me that I still have. And yeah, he
that's
was
amazing.
great. And we talked like for a few minutes. He was funny as hell.
And also you do
Musicals.
theater and musicals, right?
Yeah.
Horrific. That sounds horrific.
Horrific.
I mean, that sounds great. Tell us about that.
So once a year, because my wife only lets me do one a year, I'm in a big musical.
This is really like something I'm going to totally do this.
Yeah, community theater. And
There you go.
Can I just go out of the room for this
so
portion?
like last year, or 2 years ago, we did Beauty and the Beast. Have you seen the animated one, Chris? No?
I saw part of it, and then they started singing, and I stopped.
What a tool.
So great. I was like...
Keep talking.
I was...
Ignore him.
The candlestick, lumière. So I get to sing in a French accent. I sing...
I also saw your Elvis Pharaoh video as well.
Oh, so
From
yes.
the Technicolor
so Joseph
coat.
and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, the Pharaoh comes on as Elvis and sings, "Well, 7 fat cows came out of the night."
I watched
so
that.
that was another great dream role. So I've been like the Lion in the Wiz, which is like the kind of soul version of
I didn't watch
Wizard
that. I
of
wouldn't
Oz.
watch
Wizard
it.
of Oz.
He's
yeah.
on down the road.
Yeah. Right, he's on down the road. Yeah, nice,
You don't
Henry.
even know that shit, do you?
No, because I turn
yeah.
it off when it
Yeah.
comes on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I enjoy this.
What a tool.
But what the heck? I think you're a very complicated guy, Chris, because
Complicated. He's closed-minded.
Today on the way here, I was listening to you guys talk about the P.T. Anderson movies
Oh.
and how, for you it has to be like realism and you have to be in the movie and you can't be distracted by stuff that's not real. And at the same time, you're totally overanalyzing shit like what's written on the marquee of the theater and how that changes. Like, how can you be in the movie and paying attention to the details and thinking about them at the same
The
time?
listeners can't tell, but I'm doing a little dance on my seat.
Yeah,
Henry is doing a victory
so
dance
how can you
right
do both? And then I know you're this like this music lover and actually movie lover, because you talk about
I
a movie
love
that you
movies.
love
Yeah.
and you'll watch it a second time, which is weird shit because I've never met someone who would love a movie and watch it right away a second time.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's your thing.
Yeah, I'll instantly watch it again.
So I don't think you're qualified to talk about movies because no one else on the planet does that.
Right. No,
They
I
do what
definitely
Henry
do.
talked about is like, I need to think about Reservoir Dogs and let it like stew for a little while so I know what to think about.
Yeah, and be careful where you're treading.
You're gonna cut me out the whole fucking
No,
thing.
because Henry and I together watched Reservoir Dogs about 9 times, and he would fall asleep
That's true.
before the
That's
ending,
true.
and then he would wake up and
Yeah.
go, "This movie kind of sucked."
Now I can stay
I
awake.
love Tarantino. In fact, my 12-year-old turned me on to Tarantino.
Oh man, that was a seminal moment in our lives.
He loves going back there too.
So-
and he loves talking about that.
So, and yet, you guys talk about when you. And by the way, I'm so jealous of your friendship. I have friends that I've known. I have 2 friends
I think I'm
from nursery
blushing.
school. From when I was 4, that I'm still
Yeah.
friends with. But one's in Canada, one's in Las Vegas, and like I talk to them like a few times a year. I go
Yeah.
visit them stuff. But you guys have been buddies since you were kids. and you do this together, and you guys obviously click on so many levels.
Well, it's interesting.
I don't think a lot of guys have a guy friend that they connect with on
Yeah,
the level
and
you
it's
guys do.
interesting because we connected when I moved to Charlotte in like 8th grade. Do they have 8th grade in Canada where they have like O levels?
They
or
have
something?
grade 8.
Grade 8. Okay.
Yeah, you know, Bare Naked Ladies. This is me in grade 9, baby. This is me. In
I've
grade
heard
9.
of a band called Bare Naked Ladies.
What?
I've tried to avoid them most
Really?
of the time.
That's not the band that did the
No, that's
They did
not
that.
much difference.
If I had
I mean,
$1 million.
it's kind of
right.
similar.
My favorite Canadian band is Rush. Do you know them? Do you know Rush?
They went to my high school.
Oh my God! Let me end this.
What are you talking about?
It's over. Episode over.
The podcast is over. The hell, dude?
Can I get some more whiskey?
Mark, that's not on the fucking notes.
Why didn't you put that in the notes?
Listen, I got a lot of shit to talk about. Can I get some whiskey?
Okay, so I don't normally keep in the podcast, Henry knows this, if we have some sort of explosion where we walk away from the mics. But I may have to keep
Which
this
I
in,
don't like, because I
which I know
like the
you hate.
explosions.
Blah, blah, blah. But so tell us more about, you went to high school at the same place that fucking Rush went to high school?
At which point, these guys threw down their headsets, and Chris said, "Why did we waste all that time on Mother Teresa?"
I mean, why?
You went to the same high school as
Why
me.
didn't you fucking bring that up when we met the first time?
They went to my high school. They're older than me. They went. They were.
Sure.
They left before I was there. Like,
I see.
that's nothing about me. That's like, okay,
but that's-
I was
he
in the
didn't
same
know him.
building. So what?
If
He
I
just
went
went
to
to the same-
high school,
Yeah.
if I graduated from the same high school as Rush, that would be the
You would
first fucking
say
thing.
that would be on your business card.
It would be. It would definitely
Yeah.
be on my business card.
Yeah.
Chris Lunnan, No GD Band podcast producer, attendee of Rush.
Graduate of same high school as Getty Lee.
Right. Graduate of same high school as Kenny Lee.
Yeah.
So tell us more about doing musicals
Okay.
here in Charlotte. Though.
So, I mean, it's a wonderful experience, and it's been mostly the same people I've done it for the last 10 years here in Charlotte, and it's been these great experiences, and I've had some fantastic roles, like you talked about the Pharaoh and Lumière in Beauty and the Beast. What I don't get is you love music. You guys talk about when you were kids and you just heard for the first time like Daydream Nation, and you're sitting in a dark room with your headphones on and it's moving you. Like,
Right.
So why wouldn't it do that on stage? And why can't you, like a movie you watch to get into the movie and be taken away somewhere and for the story? The same reason, Chris, you were talking about how you like a fiction book that has a plot you can get into and follow. So I get
Right.
you like a movie that way. But a musical is meant to be a musical, and it is what it is. It's its own art form. So why can't you suspend your disbelief and enjoy the story and enjoy the songs that enhance it? Because it's, for me, if you can enjoy sitting in a dark room listening to music on headphones, why couldn't you enjoy that same song when people are enhancing it by acting it out and there's a whole story behind it?
I think. Oh, sorry, I'm putting words in your mouth. Go ahead.
So listening to you talk about that, I had two thoughts. So the first thought is, I think the look on Henry's face is one.
Mostly,
So my first,
I'm glad you're saying it, not
my
me.
first thought is music is so sacred to me that I don't feel like it needs an extra element of being acted out to enhance it. So I can sit in a room. I would rather sit in a room and listen to a concept record. Okay, so I would rather sit and listen to Tommy by The Who on record
But
than
if
watch
you see
it.
Elton John acting out Pinball Wizard,
It's distracting.
and he's like,
It's distracting from the music to me. Now, here's the other
but
part
the
of
music is telling the story.
But here's the other part of that to me.
And so music videos sucked.
That's my second
all-
part. Henry jumped the gun on
Right.
me. Most music videos to me ruin the song. Like I would
So you think of them the same way as music videos that would have sucked?
I think of it exactly the same way. Like, why are you literally acting out the lyrics to the vocal? Now, I will come off of that a little bit. I think my hatred for musicals comes more from movie musicals than stage performances. Like, so if you were doing a stage performance of a musical and pretty much it's all music and it's being acted out and it was written for that,
Yeah.
I would probably appreciate that more than I don't like in The Sound of Music when they're talking to Nazis and then they break into song. that seems silly to me because people don't do that. Like, I'm not talking to you right now, and this would be the perfect time for me to go, I hate musicals. And Mark says, why do you hate? Like, that doesn't happen in real life, so why the fuck would I want to watch that?
Musicals are not meant to be real life.
Yeah.
They're a parody.
Like science fiction's not real life.
Or comedies. Do you not like comedies? They're meant.
I love comedies.
So how can you watch a comedy and suspend disbelief there of things that don't happen in real life, and you can't do it with music?
Because no one breaks into song.
Yeah, but nobody breaks into like witty puns like in Blazing Saddles, like in real life. Or like farts around the campfire in unison.
I love Blazing Saddles.
Right, of course you do. Oh, I'll show you a picture of me with Mel Brooks.
You know what I think it is?
Oh my God, he's met Mel Brooks.
Yeah,
That's it.
great.
That's it.
Oh,
That's it, dude.
oh, the headphones are off
That's
again.
it, dude.
Oh, I went to high school with him too.
God damn it. I didn't even know Mel Brooks was Canadian.
Yeah, he didn't go to high school with Mel Brooks. But one of the things I think that he probably thinks that musicals have the music is substandard. Would you say that?
That would be another problem.
Like maybe it's not good. Like maybe you've seen musicals that did suck. Like the songs were not.
So
good.
like I've never heard a cast recording from one of those musicals when we were kids that we were raised on that I liked the music. That's part of it as well. Like Oklahoma, I think the music's terrible.
Really?
Yeah, see, and that's
Wow. It's catchy. It's fun. It's like it's John Philip Sousa. You're anti-American, is what you are.
Probably. I probably am.
Sound of Music, Rodgers and Hammerstein.
All of it.
Does
Beautiful.
nothing for him.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Really?
Nothing.
Oh.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Cricket.
like you and I would see that as like iconic.
Yeah.
So I used-
Sondheim, like Wicked. You didn't.
I
love?
used to play in a band with a girl that was that came up in theater.
Yeah.
And so when she would sing, she would come to me and she would say, "What do you think of that? How did you think about that vocal?" And I was like, "Stop doing, like, you sing great, but stop the fucking Oklahoma, Oklahoma, Oklahoma. Like, stop that shit and just sing the song."
You find it overwrought.
Because I think it has to be because you're also acting out. It's different than doing music. It is different on the stage. I have to enunciate, which you probably know,
Yes.
Mark, as well. Like,
Yes, I do.
exactly. So like that. Yes. So there's a difference there too. So that's part of my problem as well.
I have a quote. So
He actually brought a quote.
Dude,
I
is
brought a quote.
prepared.
So
he is
He's
prepared.
like, my daughter would call him extra. He's so extra.
Oscar Wilde said, "I regard the theater as the greatest of all art forms, the most immediate way in which a human being can share with another the sense of what it is to be a human being."
He just fucked you up, dude.
Yeah, and look. So
I love Oscar Wilde, but I don't want to hear him do a musical.
So to me, you have that,
Yep.
and you add music.
Well, let me ask you: do you have any bones to pick with Henry, or are you just going to pick on me
You're
the whole episode?
Yeah. He's just
None.
Sweet. So,
Jesus Christ!
Here's my other issue. David Byrne. David Byrne, you said, David Byrne, stay in your lane. And you played this fantastic electronic song that he did. And you said, he stole this from this month. I loved it. But he's been doing weird shit all along with Brian Eno. I mean, he's been doing crazy stuff. So when you say stay in your lane, what the hell is that?
Chris,
He
I
doesn't have a
what you're gonna
lane.
say. Can I predict
He
it?
does not have a lane.
We're going to put some truth to this, aren't we?
Yeah. So a couple of things here. First of all, I'm a huge David Byrne Talking Heads nerd, and I'm a huge Brian Eno nerd. So I love all of that. I actually think Talking Heads get a bad rap because they were one of the original punk bands.
Yes.
But because they didn't play 3 chords in a cloud of dust like the Ramones, they don't get the credit they were due.
Right.
They could actually fucking play
the instrument.
music.
Yeah.
I think the David Byrne thing came more from, and I'm still on the fence about this myself. It seems to me that the younger generation right now is abandoning guitars and the classic way we made,
Pure music and going to more electronic. Is that
which is great. I love
Yeah.
that they're using the tools, and I don't.
Yeah.
I, on the one hand, I love it, but on the other hand, I have trouble relating to it. And then right out of the blue, right around Grammy time, when I can't relate to anything on there, David Byrne does an electronic song as the first single off a record, and that's where I'm like, dude, we need you.
Right, what's
I
going on?
need you. You're like one of my guys, and all of a sudden, but I don't know that I dislike it. And here's the other thing, just for you, we're gonna go to current events next. We're gonna review the very next song off that record, which you just released yesterday.
Fantastic.
And I love it, but I want to get your opinion on it.
So do I, and I'm going to tell you why.
If you want to stick around for current event.
I absolutely do. And could I ask you,
Unless you have more bones to pick.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I do, but I'm enough. And probably going to have to cut out all the bones that I picked already because it's just like...
Well, I cut out anything that's
chatter.
derogatory to me.
I knew you would. Can I ask, the current events introduction music is so familiar to me. It's like from a movie or something. It's like the 60s lounge music.
That's exactly
current
what I
events.
was going for.
And is it from something?
No,
that I should
it is
know?
actually what they call public domain. So my
great.
friend that's an editor for movies turned me onto this site where you can go pull public domain stuff, and I literally typed in, because that's what I wanted, 60s dentist office theme music,
Yeah.
and I got my choices, and that
I
was,
loved it.
which is what I like.
I'm so happy. Yeah.
And then current events.
So here it is. Let's go to current events.
Current events.
All right, we're back with current events. In the break here, so just so you guys know, I was trying to pull up the first. We're gonna do a little bit of music here in current events. Yeah. Fucking Marc also played in bands. God damn it!
What else has he
so
done?
tell us about that.
Hey, check out my tattoo.
He has a
I got and look at my whiskey socks.
He's got whiskey
Whiskey
socks.
socks.
This guy is
Look.
never gonna be allowed back for sure.
Yeah. It's just a fruity little like
probably-
2/8 notes.
He's probably in
All the
porn.
guys in my band got this. Yeah.
He was in porn at some point in his life.
But later in my
That's a
life I
different-
will be.
This is gonna be.
He dabbles in
Yeah.
in architecture.
Oh, it's like Philip Seymour Hoffman in that
he was-
movie thing from The Master that you guys played
He's
in
in
the
it.
third episode where he says, "Oh, I'm a nuclear physicist, and
He's an advisor.
but really I'm just a man."
He's an advisor to Evo from Apple.
All right, so current events. So, no, tell us. You were in a band, so tell us what kind of stuff you did.
Well, it started with like jazz because I used to play saxophone, and then I got in. It was mellow rock, so it was like Pink Floyd, and it was Neil
Steely
Young,
Dan?
and no, I don't.
Yacht
Steely
rock?
Dan.
Yacht rock? No? Okay.
And James Taylor, kind of mellow, folksy kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, we're gonna play a few tunes here, and we'll all just react to them. The song I'm gonna play is by a band called Ride, which I think Henry and I had mentioned in our last episode about a band that we went to see that got blown away by the opener.
Yeah, Pale Saints blew
Yes,
away.
and so the reason I wanted to play this new Ride song is that Ride was like a seminal band for Henry and I. When
Yep.
they came to Charlotte, it was like a big deal
big
when we
deal.
were kids.
They were Brit rock, right? We sit and did this kind of music or loved this kind of music in this sort of hole.
When you
right?
said I was anti-American, you were almost 100% right, because in the
Because
90s, I
all of
wouldn't
our
listen
stuff-
to anything that was American.
All of our stuff was coming from the UK. All the stuff we liked.
or Canada, Cowboy Junkies.
I
we
never
loved
said you
Cowboy
were
Junkies.
anti-American.
Well, you were
I
joking.
said
he was
very-
joking.
You were
Oh,
kind of
right,
joking,
okay.
but I was like, you don't know how right you are, because
in some ways.
in the early 90s,
That
if
was the
you'd-
whiskey talking.
Yeah, if you just said, what do you think about Bruce Springsteen, they'd be like, fucking American. Sounds like shit. So anyway, Ride was this big, we never got bands like that in Charlotte. They were from England, and they came here, and then they got blown away by another English band that we saw open for them. Anyway, a couple of our favorite bands from the 90s made comebacks this past year.
They broke up.
Came back. One was called Slow Dive, which I think we played on an early episode.
Yes.
You can go back and check out. Their new record is amazing. It even got like top 20 records of the year on a lot of the music sites. So it wasn't just us that thought it was amazing. Ride also put a record out, and it was kind of,
Not great.
it sounded like what you would think a band that came back after 20 years. Now here's the interesting thing. Today they put out an EP of extra songs from that record that they didn't release with the record. And I listened to the first one, I was like, what the fuck did you not release this one for?
Yeah.
I might get the face from Henry again on this song, but I'm going to play Pulsar by Ride, and you guys can
We've come so far.
All right, that was Pulsar by Ride. Sounds like fucking Ride to me, right?
For once, like I thought.
And Mark, that's what they, to me, that's what they used to sound like.
I don't know right, but that was 2 thumbs up. I loved it. It was good.
One of the things that I got out of it was, it's like, I was hoping that they recorded this after they put this the Weather Diaries in the can.
No, that's what's crazy.
It's not a bad song. I will tell you that I still hear a little of that middle-aged weirdness. I wish that they would kind of get rid of that.
Okay, but maybe they can't. Maybe they can't.
Right,
but did you hear anything on Weather Diaries that sounds that good?
No. Like, why won't they pursue that vein?
So who's the producer that went, nah, you got to drop that one?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Because this is just an outtake.
Because that sounds like, oh, okay, they're still, the other wasn't even a Ride record. It was some other band.
Yes. It's
to
crazy.
me.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, but I like that.
That song is redeeming. It was redeeming, but I want them to like do a real record that's like that now.
I know. I hope maybe
did you listen to the other 4 songs?
Well, there's only one other one that's available on iTunes. I didn't listen to it yet.
I listened to the other 3 songs, and
I'll check it out.
And they're not bad, but I got to tell you, it's like not like they're not like this.
Yeah,
it's like that's the one song that sounds like the old Ride we used to know, and maybe that's the problem, is they're trying to bleach that away.
You guys are opening up my mind.
Yes,
because I got all kinds of stuff I have to listen to. Like, you guys played Morrissey.
Yeah,
I loved that song. Like, Stay in Bed.
Yes.
And I totally got a different idea of what he was talking about than you did, Henry.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't think it was like a white supremacist
so
thing. I loved it.
The band that he was in originally is my favorite band of all time. So if you like Morrissey, go back and listen to the Smiths.
Yeah, which I've started doing on YouTube.
Yeah, they're amazing. So the last song I wanted to review is the second cut, and this is in honor of you,
Yay.
Dr. Marc.
Yep. We know
From
you're
the David Byrne records. So I like this one hundreds of times more than the first one.
Wow.
Here we go.
When the song comes on, when I hear them say everything stops, everything changed. It's nothing special now, it's nothing profound, but something about the way it sounds when the melody ends and the rhythm kicks in. It knows where I'm at, and it knows where I've been. Well, that's when I call you up. That's when my river overflows. That's when I use my cash card. That's when I think of who you are. That's when there's a knock at the door, and that's what we're doing it for. Well, that's when I got your message, and that's when I sing this song now. That's when he says it's over. That's when my life is in your hands now. That's when I call you up. That's when my river overflows. That's when I use my cash cash card. That's when I think of who you are. This is when, this is now, this is that, this is how, this is what, this is then, this is where. This is now, this is that, this is how, this is what, this is then, this is where, this is when.
This is that by David Byrne.
Yeah, that should have been the lead single off that record.
It's weird because I think listening to it for the fifth or sixth time, it's every bit as not what I expected as that first song, what I criticized the first song for. Like, it's all samples and electronic-ish.
But done in a more meaningful way, I thought.
But it reminds me of that you brought up, Dr. Mark, you brought up that second, or you brought up the Brian Eno collaborations, the second one he did. It reminds me a lot more of that, which was, I looked that up while we were listening. That was the second one was in 2008.
Is that like Ghost in the Machine?
That was the first one, was In the Bush.
In the Bush.
In the Bush with the ghost.
Yeah.
The one I was thinking of was Everything That Happens Will Happen Today, was their second record they did together in 2008. I really liked that one. I think that was great.
What'd you think?
I thought it was fantastic.
Me too.
At first, I was listening to Henry say on the side that it's not very musical. I can't get into the beat. And I thought you were talking about this, but I started getting into it more and more. By the end of the song, I was loving it.
It's like,
I didn't want it to end.
It's like he's behind and ahead of the beat, and so it's slightly disorienting.
Yeah.
It gets you into the song.
Yes.
Like it buys you into the song by being disoriented.
And it felt to me,
and it gets you listening closer.
even though I don't know that it is, it felt to me like polyrhythmic in the way like South American or African
But
music
not
is.
truly. Like,
Right, but then I was like sitting there going, oh, he's sampling some sort of African thing. And then I was like listening to it going, that's not at all. It's just like a keyboard and a
When you
bell.
said in a previous episode, David Byrne, stay in your lane, I thought, he doesn't have a lane. He's always been so avant-garde. He does like all kinds of weird stuff with different people. He collaborates. Collaboration. There's another word that's been ruined. Mm-hmm. But he's been so, what's the word? He does all kinds of different music, and it's all great.
Yes.
And telling him to stay in this lane is like telling Picasso, like, don't stay in that.
I think we were looking at that song and thinking, okay, is he going to start co-opting the electronic stuff to ill effect and like less?
Well, no,
lessen
and
his
I
impact?
think the more direct meaning for me was more like I know a song that sounds exactly like this by LCD.
With
sound system
that borrowed,
and you were right.
elements
It
of
did
that.
sound. You
And
played
I was
it,
like,
and it sounded very similar.
David
I
Byrne,
liked
you
his-
are much greater than
I liked his
like
better.
copying
But
LCD. This was amazing. This
was great.
Dr. Mark, we want to thank you again for coming out
Thank
and
you,
being
sir.
here on the podcast. That was so awesome. You
It's
did-
been such an honor. Listen, I have another quote. Eleanor Roosevelt is attributed with this quote that she said, great minds discuss ideas, mediocre minds discuss events, and small minds talk about people. But you guys do a great job of doing it all and bringing everybody into the fold and talking about everything and doing it intelligently. And I so enjoy your podcast, and I'm so honored to be here. So
Thank you
very
so
much.
much for being on. We really loved having you, and I think we'll have you back for sure. It
Welcome
sounds like-
back anytime.
I do want to plug next week, Henry, before we go. We went to a show by a band called Omni
Yep.
that we liked. We both liked it a lot. We're going to play some music by them. We actually got an interview. It's our first No GD Band podcast on-site interview.
Right.
And there was also another band that played with them called
Convoy.
and we liked them a lot too.
really
So stay tuned for that.
Talk
So-
about that. Talk about Black Panther next week. And we
Yes.
ain't got no goddamn band, Chris.
We need to practice. We need to rehearse.
I'll tell you what we need. We need some paying gigs. We don't need this messing around, first one patio and then another, and that's ridiculous.
Amen.
We don't got no goddamn